The private dining room was quiet, lit only by flickering candlelight that caught on crystal glasses and gleaming silver. Marissa Keaton froze mid-sip, her manicured fingers wrapped around a wine glass worth more than most rent checks. Across from her, beyond the velvet rope that kept staff out of the VIP section, a man in a janitor's uniform stood holding a mop. Cole Bennett's voice was steady. "Cole, I can help you walk again." Marissa tilted her head, a slow, disbelieving smile curving her lips. "Marissa, you want to do what?" He did not flinch. "Cole, help you walk again." In that moment, the low hum of the city vanished. Only the tension between them remained. What happened next would shatter her carefully constructed world. Welcome to today's story. A journey filled with emotions, unexpected turns, and lessons worth keeping. If you enjoy stories that touch the heart and make you think, please subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. Now, let us begin. Marissa Keaton was 38, a steel-willed tech investor with a flawless reputation and an equally flawless facade. She rolled through life in a custom wheelchair, her image polished to perfection, her voice always in control. The doctors had said she should be able to walk, but she had not taken a step in over 5 years. Cole Bennett, 42, had been mopping the floors of La Lumiere for 8 months. He was quiet, watchful, with eyes that seemed to notice everything. He had never spoken more than a polite, "Good evening," to Marissa, until now. Cole's words cut through the air. Marissa laughed, not kindly, but sharply, like a gavel striking wood. "Marissa, do you offer spinal surgeries with floor wax and bleach now?" Cole, "No, I offer something your doctors have not." Curiosity prickled her irritation. She leaned back, studying him. "Marissa, and what would that be?" Cole, "Perspective." The word sat between them, unwanted but undeniable. Marissa's instinct was to summon her assistant, but she hesitated when he mentioned noticing her feet twitch when she was angry. She scoffed, but her left foot shifted almost imperceptibly under the table. Cole's gaze never wavered. He explained that he had seen someone he loved come back from a place darker than her current one. His late wife had been a battlefield nurse who one day woke up unable to move her legs. The diagnosis was psychological paralysis. Marissa bristled, yet something in her chest tightened. The image of being seen, not as a broken woman, but as someone still whole, unsettled her. That night, she returned to her pristine townhouse, its glass walls reflecting only her controlled elegance. She wheeled herself to a full-length mirror and stared at her legs. Her mind whispered, reflexes, as if testing whether Cole's observation had weight. But she shook the thought away. The next evening, she was not surprised to find Cole back at the restaurant. What surprised her was her own voice asking the maitre d' to send him in. He stepped inside, mop set aside. She asked pointedly if his wife had ever forgiven him for not saving her. Cole replied quietly that she had saved herself. He had only held the light long enough for her to find the door. Marissa's fingers tapped against the armrest. She had built an empire, navigated ruthless boardrooms, and crushed hostile takeovers. But in this man's calm, unshakable presence, she felt cornered in a way she could not name. Still, something in her said yes when he offered to help her try again. Halfway through their first session, the tension between them shifted. Cole asked her to close her eyes and breathe. The air smelled faintly of sandalwood from the polished floors, grounding her in a way she had not expected. But then, he pulled out a small, worn notebook. It was his wife's journal, chronicling her recovery inch by inch. He said it might remind Marissa that she was not alone. She looked at it as though it might burn her fingers. Still, she allowed him to guide her through tiny movements, toes flexing, ankles rotating, that made her feel both ridiculous and exposed. By the end of the session, the room felt different. Not warmer, not lighter, but less sterile. Marissa sat alone long after Cole left, staring at her untouched bourbon. She slid it away, unsure why. The next morning, she dressed without her usual blazer or heels. No armor, just a plain white shirt and yoga pants. Cole noticed, but said nothing. She asked why he had brought a mirror into the room. Cole, so you can see yourself healing. Marissa, I hate mirrors. Cole, then maybe that is where we start. Her breath caught. She was beginning to wonder what starting would really mean. But what she discovered next would be far more difficult than moving her legs. The second week began with Marissa rolling herself into the sitting room without her assistant. Her hair was tied back, her face free of makeup. Cole was already setting out the mat and resistance bands, the faint scent of clean cotton from freshly laundered towels in the air. She moved her chair closer and stopped. Marissa, first rule, you do not touch me without permission. Cole, understood. Marissa, second, no pity. I do not do pity. Cole, would not dream of it. Her third rule hung in the air. Marissa, if I say stop, you stop. Cole nodded once. They began with controlled breathing. The sound of the city filtered faintly through the window, horns, footsteps, the occasional siren, blending into a steady rhythm. Cole asked her to focus on that beat, letting her body remember safety before movement. Halfway through, he reached into his bag and pulled out a small music box. The melody was faint but clear, a tune from another era. Marissa froze. She knew it. She had played it on the piano in college. It had been her father's favorite. Cole explained that it had belonged to his wife, who had kept it close during her recovery. He said music helped her connect to the parts of herself she thought were gone. The memory hit Marissa harder than she expected, but she said nothing. Over the next few days, their sessions built slowly. Tiny movements became measurable progress. Flexing toes became dragging a towel an inch across the mat. Her frustration grew with each task that looked too small to matter, until Cole reminded her that muscles that did nothing could not hold tension. But something else was shifting. The more Cole saw her, the harder it was for Marissa to hide behind her old armor. Then came the headline. One morning, she arrived in a clipped mood. Her phone screen still burned in her mind. Marissa Keaton's $1 Million Wheels, fashion or fantasy? The mocking tone was unmistakable. Cole noticed her distraction. Cole, what is going on? Marissa, they are mocking me again. They always will. The world does not care what I have been through. They want blood. Cole, then give them silence, not surrender. The words landed, but they did not soothe. Later that week, during a simple forward shift exercise, her patience cracked. She shouted that she could not do it. Cole stayed calm, reminding her that trying and doing were not the same thing. She stared at him, heat rising in her voice. Marissa, do you know what it feels like to want something so badly and have your own body betray you? Cole, yes. He told her about his wife waking from nightmares, frozen in place, terrified that the paralysis would never end. It took time, patience, and truth before she could move again. Marissa's anger faltered. Cole said something that struck deeper than she was ready for. Her paralysis was not weakness, but protection. Her mind had built a wall so high that even she could not see over it. The room felt suddenly heavier, as if the air itself were listening. In the following sessions, she started to reveal more. She admitted her fall had not been an accident. It was a jump. She had not wanted to die, but she wanted her husband to stop seeing her as background furniture. Cole listened without judgment, saying only that it was not her shame to carry. He told her she had not lost her legs. She had surrendered them, which meant she could take them back. That night, she sat at her piano for the first time in years. Her fingers pressed tentative keys, releasing notes that drifted through the empty house like voices returning after a long absence. In the next session, she surprised him. Instead of the chair, she asked to try moving to the mat on her own. Her arms shook, her breathing came fast, but she managed it. Cole said, "That is the first step, choosing to dethrone the lie." Each day after that, the air in the room felt different. The scent of fresh coffee sometimes drifted from the kitchen. Sunlight reached deeper into the space, dust motes drifting like slow-moving sparks. One afternoon, Cole suggested water therapy. Marissa had already arranged for a portable plunge pool to be set up on her terrace. She said the water made falling less frightening. In the pool, her legs began to move freely, her feet cutting through the water with a grace she had not felt in years. She laughed, the sound raw but unforced. "Marissa, I forgot what it felt like to be alive in my own body." Cole saw her eyes fill but made no comment. The next week, she handed him an envelope. Inside was a check made out to the Hope Foundation for Family Healing, the nonprofit Cole had once dreamed of starting. She said it was repayment, not charity, for showing her she was not paralyzed, only paused. By now, Marissa could stand in the water unassisted for several seconds. She was not walking yet, but she was no longer waiting to begin. But just when momentum seemed unstoppable, an anonymous message landed on her phone. It read, "You think this makes you a hero? You are still a fraud." Her legs felt heavy again. She skipped the next 2 sessions. Cole sensed the pull of old shadows returning. What happened next would test whether she truly believed her own progress, or if she would retreat for good. By the 3rd missed session, Cole stood outside Marissa's tall iron gate. The townhouse windows reflected the pale winter light, but nothing stirred inside. He rang the bell once, then again. Silence. When the door finally cracked open the next morning, Marissa stood in a robe. Her hair was loose, her face pale. She leaned heavily on the frame, her legs stiff, but she was standing. Cole, "Why are you here?" Marissa, "Because I am not doing this anymore." Her voice was flat, her eyes distant. Cole asked why. She answered quietly, "Marissa, because I am terrified that all of this does not matter." He stepped inside, shutting the door. "Cole, you are afraid of the wrong thing. You should fear never trying again." She looked at him, eyes wet. "Marissa, they do not know me, Cole. They do not know what I have lived through." "Cole, then show them." Her voice broke. "Marissa, what if the voice that haunts me is mine?" Cole nodded slowly. "Cole, then we teach her how to speak again." They did not do physical therapy that day. Instead, they sat cross-legged on the mat. Cole opened his wife's journal to a worn page. He read aloud about the first small twitch she felt, the moment she knew she was still in there. The words landed like rain on dry ground. Marissa admitted she was tired of being a symbol. Cole told her to stop being one and start being a person. The next morning, she sent him a message. "Tomorrow, 9 a.m. I am ready." When he arrived, she was already on the mat. Her hair was pulled into a messy ponytail, sweat on her brow. Cole smiled and dropped his bag. Cole. Hope is noisy when it has been quiet too long. They began with core work. The air smelled faintly of eucalyptus from the balm she had rubbed on her knees. Each movement was controlled, each breath deliberate. At one point, Cole reached to steady her. Marissa shook her head. "Marissa, let me fall if I need to. I have to know what I can catch." She wobbled, corrected herself, and stayed upright. Her grin was bright, sweat streaking down her temples. They ended the session on the floor, drinking water in comfortable silence. Marissa looked at her bare legs. "Marissa, I do not know who this woman is." Cole, "I do. She is becoming." The next afternoon, they moved outside to the terrace. The plunge pool waited, warmed by the sun. Marissa eased into the water, her fingers gripping the edge at first. Then she released it. Cole told her water remembers how to float, how to move without fear. Her legs began to kick, slow, then stronger. She laughed, eyes bright. "Marissa, now I feel like I am not borrowing someone else's life anymore." Days later, progress came faster. She took 2 full steps in the pool unassisted. Afterward, she handed Cole a handwritten note for his daughter Lila, thanking her for the gift of a patched-up doll that reminded her broken things still matter. That night, Cole texted her, "You are walking." She replied instantly, "Not yet, but I am dancing in my dreams." The gala was the turning point. The ballroom glittered under chandeliers, the scent of fresh roses in the air. Marissa arrived in an elegant navy gown, wheeled by her assistant. She was the picture of composure, but inside, her heart thundered. When it came time for her to speak, her assistant reached for the microphone. Marissa shook her head. "Marissa, I will walk." Gasps rose as she placed her hands on the chair's arms and stood. Her heels clicked softly on marble as she crossed to the podium. The crowd froze, holding its breath. She spoke clearly. There had been a time she thought standing still was strength, but stillness was only fear. She confessed she had stayed in the chair for 5 years, not because she could not walk, but because she was afraid to try. Cole stood at the edge of the room, his jaw tight, his eyes wet. Lila, in a blue dress with mismatched socks, clapped wildly. Marissa ended with this: "Healing does not ask for permission. It only needs one brave, foolish moment when you choose to try." The applause thundered, but she barely heard it. Her eyes found Cole's. He mouthed, "You did it." She mouthed back, "We did." Later, on the terrace, she pulled off her heels and let her legs dangle over the edge. The air was cool, carrying the faint scent of rain. "Marissa, when I stood up tonight, I did not feel proud. I felt free." Cole, "Freedom does not come from walking." Marissa, "No, it comes from deciding to stop sitting still." For the first time, she leaned her head against his shoulder. "Marissa, I am tired of standing alone." The next chapter of her life was already taking shape. But what she was about to do next would prove that this was not just her story anymore. It was theirs. 3 days after the gala, the video of Marissa standing had gone viral. The moment she rose from her chair, the way the room stilled, it played on every major news outlet. But for Marissa, none of that mattered as much as the quiet that followed. She sat barefoot in her sunroom, coffee in a chipped mug from her college days. Her phone buzzed with a message from her mother. "You stood taller than I have ever seen you. I am proud of the daughter I once feared I lost." The words sank into places no therapist had reached. Later, she met Cole at the temporary Hope Center, operating out of a borrowed church basement. The air smelled faintly of fresh paint and strong coffee. They walked through rooms where volunteers worked with patients who had nearly given up on themselves. Cole pointed out a teenage girl in a neck brace laughing over a puzzle. Cole: "She has not smiled in a week, until now." Marissa asked what it would cost to make the center permanent. Cole said it would take more than a viral moment. Marissa smiled. "Marissa, good thing I am no longer living in moments." When the new Hope Center opened, sunlight spilled through tall windows onto freshly painted walls. A mural showed a woman rising from a wheelchair, holding a child's hand. Beneath it, bold letters read, "Healing is not about returning to who you were. It is about becoming who you were meant to be." Lila had chosen the quote. Marissa had painted it herself. Before the ribbon was cut, Marissa stepped forward to speak. She told the crowd that the center existed because a man who mopped floors believed in something louder than silence, and gave it a name. Cole's jaw tightened, his eyes glassy. When the scissors dropped to the ribbon, they pulled the doors open together. Families and children flooded in, laughter echoing against the high ceilings. Later, on the balcony overlooking the city, Marissa turned to Cole. "Marissa, the first time I saw you, I thought you were just a janitor." Cole: "I was." Marissa: "No, you were a mirror. I did not like what I saw in myself until you saw something different." Cole: "I saw a woman with a fire in her eyes who did not know she still had matches left." She laughed, a real, unguarded laugh, and held out her hand. "Marissa, dance with me." They moved slowly under the open sky. There was no music, only the wind and the sound of children playing inside. Two people, once broken, now whole, in ways no diagnosis could explain. In the weeks that followed, Marissa's story sparked unexpected ripples. A waitress called her estranged mother. A veteran requested to try physical therapy again. In a bedroom with glow-in-the-dark stars, Lila fell asleep holding both Marissa's and Cole's hands. Cole whispered, "She will be all right." Marissa smiled in the dark. "Marissa, she already is, and so are we." Outside, the moon was full. Inside, 3 hearts beat in perfect time, no longer waiting to walk, but already dancing in the light. Thank you for listening. If this story touched you, please share it and leave your thoughts in the comments below.